Enough with the tired cliches about wealth and happiness. I've lived it. Money buys something better, a shield against the world's cruelty, against the people who want to break you. In my past life, I was a loyal friend, a gullible fool who let a college buddy hold on to a winning lottery ticket, a mistake that cost me $8 million, my fiancé, and eventually, my life. But the universe has a funny way of working, a twisted sense of humor. I died in a miserable hospice bed, with nothing, only to wake up 15 years earlier, standing in the same convenience store, staring at the same scratch-off. This time, the $8 million is mine, and I'll make him pay for every crime he hasn't even committed yet. The rain hammered against the thin, single-pane window of my hospice room, sounding like applause, a cruel, mocking standing ovation for a life wasted. I was 35. Liver failure and a decade of immense stress had aged me to look 60. My name was Nathan Cross. If you searched for me online from that period, you'd find almost nothing, just a few unpaid medical bills in public records and a foreclosed house in a dreary Seattle suburb, briefly and humiliatingly mentioned in a lawsuit I lost in 2015. But if you searched for Derek Sterling, my former best friend, you'd find a different world entirely: yachts in Monaco, tech startups, investments. Photos of him smiling on the cover of finance magazines, his arm around Sarah Jenkins, the woman who should have worn my ring. Derek had everything, and he bought it all, with my money, lying there, my vision blurring. That memory played on a loop in my mind, an agonizing cycle. October 14, 2011, we were broke students. We stopped at a Henderson gas station for cheap beer before a party. I had one crisp $20 bill left until payday. I used my late grandfather's lucky coin, the Super Lotto numbers, 07, 14, 21, 33, 49, Powerball 18. Derek had laughed. "You're wasting your money, Nate," he said, but when the ticket printed, he snatched it off the counter. "Let me hold on to it. You always lose stuff when you drink. We'll split it 50-50 if we win. Brothers, right? Brothers." The word tasted like ash in my dying mouth. By the time the numbers were drawn the next morning, Derek was gone. He claimed he bought the ticket himself. He hired a lawyer who was nothing short of a shark, draining me dry with legal fees when I sued, spinning stories that I was a delusional, jealous loser trying to extort him. Sarah, dazzled by his sudden wealth and exhausted by my desperate fury, packed her bags and moved into his new penthouse. I was left with nothing but the echo of his betrayal. The stress drove me to drink. The drink made me sick. The sickness put me in this cheap, sterile bed. The heart monitor beside me began to flatline. A steady, piercing beep drowned out the rain. A tightness clenched my chest. A heavy, dark curtain fell over my eyes. I felt my soul detach, a terrifying weightlessness, a free fall into absolute nothingness. I closed my eyes and accepted the end. Ding, ding, the bell on the door chimed. I gasped, my lungs expanding violently as I drew in a breath. I stumbled forward, my hand reaching out to steady myself, palms slapping hard against the cold, cheap laminate. "Whoa, Nate, easy there, man, you look like you've seen a ghost. Start the pregame a little early." The voice hit me like a physical blow. I blinked. The harsh, fluorescent lights blinded me momentarily. The smell of stale coffee, artificial cherry slushy syrup, and cheap floor wax washed over me. Senses, not the sharp, bleach-incoming death scent. I looked down at my hands. They were smooth, unblemished. The jaundiced yellow of liver failure was gone. My knuckles were strong. The skin was taut and smooth, youthful. I wasn't in a hospital gown, but in my faded old Nirvana t-shirt and a thrift store flannel. Slowly, I raised my head. Standing beside me, holding a case of discount Loggerhead beer, was Derek Sterling. He looked absurdly young. No designer suit, no Rolex, no billionaire's arrogance, just a 20-year-old college frat boy with messy blonde hair and that slightly lopsided, disarmingly friendly grin that used to put everyone at ease. Mr. Henderson was behind the counter, adjusting his thick, metal-framed glasses, looking at me with mild concern. "You all right, son?" You went white as a sheet there for a second. I gripped the edge of the counter, my heart hammering like a trapped bird. My eyes darting to the LED clock on the wall behind Mr. Henderson. 4:32 p.m., October 14, 2011. The impact was a physical shockwave. It left me dizzy, breathless. I hadn't died, or rather, I had, but death, it wasn't the end. It was a tear back through the fabric of time, to the moment my life was stolen. I looked back at Derek. He was looking down at an early model smartphone, utterly unaware of the ghost standing beside him. The sheer, intoxicating rage that surged through me was dizzying. I wanted to reach out, wrap my young, healthy hands around his throat, and squeeze until the life left his eyes. I wanted to snuff out the threat before it ever bloomed, but as the red haze of anger receded, a colder, sharper instinct took over. Killing him now would just put me in a cage. It would be too easy, too merciful. He had taken 15 years. He had taken years from me and turned them into a living hell. Nate. Derek nudged my shoulder, earth to Nathan. Snap out of it, man, pay the man. So we can get to the party. Sarah's already texting asking where we are. A bitter smile touched my lips at the sound of her name. Sarah, the girl who traded loyalty for money. Yeah, I said, my voice sounding strange, calm, unnervingly steady. Sorry, spaced out for a sec. I reached into my pocket, my fingers brushing against paper. I pulled it out, a crisp $20 bill, the same 20. The universe had dealt the hand again, but this time, I knew the cards. You're getting the beer. Right, Derek asked, hefting the 12-pack onto the counter. He patted his own pockets and sighed dramatically. Ah, man, I left my wallet back at the dorm. I'll Venmo you, later. I swear it was a lie. I remember that detail clearly now. Later that night, in my previous life, I saw him pay for the late-night pizza with a wad of cash. He was always like that, living off me, saving his own money while draining mine. I said softly, don't worry about the beer, as I smoothed out the $20 bill, placed it on the laminate countertop, but I needed to get something else first. I looked up at Mr. Henderson. I need a mega draw, 1 ticket, please, custom numbers. Derek groaned loudly, tilting his head back. Ah, Nate, here we go again. You're literally throwing money into a fire. The odds are 1 in 300 million. Might as well buy a pack of cigarettes, or something useful. Who knows? I replied, pulling a pink lottery slip and a golf pencil from the little plastic box on the counter. My hand didn't shake. I stared at the grid of bubbles on the slip. Those numbers were etched into the grooves of my mind. I had dreamed them. I had screamed them in my sleep, cried for them. 07 14 21 33 49 Powerball 18. I filled in the circles slowly, precisely. Each dark pencil mark was like a chain breaking. Each number was a stepping stone out of the grave and into an empire. You're really doing this, Derek chuckled, leaning against the counter with his arms crossed. He was wearing that shirt, the same condescending smirk I later saw on the cover of Forbes. Alright, tell you what, since I'm your best bro, if you win, we split it 50-50, for moral support. The audacity was staggering, even knowing everything I knew. His casualness was unbelievable. That sense of entitlement still made my teeth grind. In the old timeline, I would have laughed, clapped him on the shoulder, and agreed, sure, man, 50-50. It was that verbal agreement, twisted and manipulated by his lawyers, that buried me. He argued we were partners and used the beer purchase to muddy the timeline, claiming he'd fronted the money for the ticket. I shaded the final bubble for the Powerball, number 18. I set the pencil down and looked Derek straight in the eye. No, Derek blinked. The smile on his face froze for a second, then returned, strained, damn, greedy. Just kidding, man, chill. I just have a really good feeling about this one, Derek, I said, lowering my voice, holding his gaze. I think this piece of paper is going to change my life. I don't want to share it with anyone. My intensity unsettled him. Easygoing, pushover Nathan Cross was gone, replaced by a 35-year-old, hard-hearted cynic trapped in a 21-year-old's body. I handed the pink slip to Mr. Henderson. Just this one line, please, no multiplier. Mr. Henderson fed it into the terminal. The machine clicked, a beautiful mechanical symphony, the sound of fate. The printer whirred, it spat out the ticket, a small rectangle of thermal paper, as Mr. Henderson reached to tear it from the machine. Derek lunged forward, his hand shooting out. I'll grab it, he said, the old script, playing out exactly as before. Let me hold it, Nate. You know you lose everything you take out of the house. You lost your ID last week. I'll keep it safe. in my jacket. Time seemed to slow down. I watched his hand slowly reach toward the ticket. In my past life, I had let him take it. I trusted him completely. He was like the charming older brother I'd never had. This time, my reaction was faster, driven by delusion, fueled by 15 years of bitter regret. My hand shot out like a venomous snake. Mid-air, I snatched the ticket right from beneath Derek's hovering arm, fingertips. Wow, Derek pulled his hand back, looking furious. Oh my God, calm down. I didn't intend to steal. No, you were going to steal. I thought you were going to steal. You wanted to steal my girlfriend. You wanted me dead. I see, I said calmly, carefully folding the ticket in half, then folding it again. I bought a new wallet today. It had a special zippered pocket, definitely secure. I slipped the folded ticket deep into the front pocket of my jeans. I pressed my palm over it, just to feel it. $8,400,000, safely pressed against my thigh. Derek snorted, rolled his eyes. Whatever, man, you've been acting weird today. Just pay for the beer and let's get going. Sarah's waiting. Fine, beer. I glanced at the case of 12-pack beers on the counter. Then at Mr. Henderson. I still held the $20 bill in my hand. Ticket price, $2. I had 18 left. A new plan began to form in my mind, a beautiful, trivial yet necessary plan. I had to break away from Derek immediately. I couldn't go to that party, tonight. I couldn't bear to look at Sarah's face, not knowing how quickly she'd betray me for the wealth I now possessed. In my pocket, I needed time to buy tickets, to think, to plan the next 15 minutes. For years, I had to disappear, to leave Derek to carry everything alone. I pushed the $20 bill across the counter. Mr. Henderson, please don't give me change. Mr. Henderson, I turned to Derek, feigning sudden realization. I frantically patted the back pocket of my jeans. Damn, I muttered under my breath. Derek, my phone. What? He asked, checking his reflection in the security mirror, up in the aisle. I think I left it in the car, must have slipped out of my pocket while driving. I need it. I'm waiting for a call from my mom. The excuse was weak, but Derek wasn't the type to overanalyze someone else's reasoning, unless it benefited him. Problems meant nothing to him otherwise. So, go get it, Derek sighed, clearly annoyed by the delay. Hurry up. I will, I said. Hey, do me a favor. Just wait right here by the counter. Don't go out. It was raining heavily. Derek looked out through the glass door. Watching Seattle's torrential downpour sweep across the parking lot, he shivered slightly. In his thin jacket, right, no joke. Hurry up, man, I'm thirsty. I'll be right back, I promised. I took a step toward the door, then stopped, turning back. Actually, Derek, while I'm out, you grab some snacks. I'll treat you. Get some of those Mexican chili chips you love. Maybe some beef jerky. We'll need it for the party. Derek's eyes lit up at the thought of free food. Greed showed plainly, always there, so easy to manipulate. Really? Okay, I'm in, but I'm getting the most expensive jerky. Enjoy it, I smiled. A cold smile played on my lips, one that didn't reach my eyes. I pushed open the glass door of Henderson's gas station and stepped out. The cold rain hit me like a hot wave, instantly washing away the smell of the convenience store and clearing my mind completely. I wasn't dreaming. The cold water seeping into my flannel shirt felt too real. The heavy metallic clink of keys in my pocket felt too real. Real? I hurried across the cracked asphalt toward my beat-up 1998 car. Honda Civic. I used to be embarrassed driving this thing. Derek always joked about the rust spots, the bumper, the rattling muffler. Now, looking at it through the pouring rain, it looked like a gilded chariot, my escape pod. I opened the door, slid into the driver's seat, and slammed it shut, cutting off the storm's noise. The interior smelled of old pine air freshener and damp fabric. I sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, knuckles nearly white. The paper. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the folded thermal slip. I flicked on the dim dome light. Holy shit, a gasp-like, raspy laugh burst from my throat, half sob, half triumphant roar. I had it, the key to the kingdom, the ultimate reset button. I looked back through the rain-streaked windshield. Inside the brightly lit convenience store, I could see Derek. He was standing by the snack aisle, holding a family-sized bag of chips, chatting casually with Mr. Henderson. He was waiting for me to get my wallet back, to pay for his snacks and beer. He was waiting for a ride to the party. He was waiting to continue his life, a charming parasite attached to my back. I shoved the key into the ignition and turned it. The engine sputtered, coughed, hesitated, then it caught with its familiar, reassuring rattle and roared to life. I shifted into reverse. Inside the store, Derek must have heard the engine. I saw him turn his head, through the glass doors, even with the rain and the distance. I could see the confusion dawning on his face. I backed out of the parking spot, tires splashing through a deep puddle. I shifted into drive. Derek dropped the bag of chips. He took a step toward he pushed the door open, his lips moving, probably calling my name. I didn't wave, I didn't smile, I just stared, through the glass. I memorized the look of utter bewilderment on his face. It was a tiny, minuscule fraction of the abandonment, the betrayal I'd felt in that hospital room. I stomped on the gas. The Honda lurched forward, surging out of the parking lot and onto the slick main road. I merged into the evening traffic, leaving Henderson's gas and go behind. I glanced in the rearview mirror. One last look. Derek was outside now, standing under the awning, getting soaked. He was waving his arms frantically, a phone pressed to his ear. My phone, on the passenger seat beside me, started to ring. Buzz, the screen lit up, D-Money calling. I reached over, picked it up. I held the phone, rolled down the window. A blast of cold, wet wind rushed into the cabin. Without a second thought, I tossed the cheap burner phone out. It flipped end over end into the darkness. I saw it in the rear view, shattering into plastic pieces on the wet pavement. Wait as long as you want, Derek, I whispered to the empty car, the tension finally draining from my shoulders. I'm not coming back. Driving back to my tiny apartment felt like flying. My mind was a whirlwind of calculations and strategy. The drawing wasn't until 11 p.m. tonight. Until then, the ticket was just a piece of paper, but after 11 p.m., it became a bearer instrument worth over $8 million. I had to keep it safe. I couldn't just leave it in my pocket. What if my apartment caught fire? What if I got robbed? It was everywhere. When I arrived at my apartment building, a grim, brick complex that always smelled of boiled cabbage, I didn't go in right away. I sat in the car, thinking, who do I know? Who can I trust? In my past life, I trusted Sarah. I'd called her. After the drawing, she burst into tears of joy, telling everyone we'd struck it rich. It was she who insisted Derek come over to celebrate, which led to the misunderstanding about who truly owned the ticket. Sarah was cut out, Derek was eliminated. My parents were good people, but they weren't good at keeping secrets and were easily intimidated by authority figures, like Derek's future lawyers. I needed a fortress. I ran up 3 flights of stairs to my apartment, opened the door, and bolted it shut from the inside. The apartment was exactly as I remembered, cluttered, cramped, filled with university textbooks and cheap furniture. I walked straight to the desk and opened the bottom drawer. Inside was an old, heavy metal safe. I placed everything inside, my passport, my social security card. I gently laid the lottery ticket beside the passport, then locked the box. I hung the key on a chain around my neck. I glanced at my watch. 6:15 p.m. Derek was probably furious by now. He might be stuck at a gas station, forced to call Sarah or one of his friends. He'd have his fraternity brothers give him a ride, complaining I'd gone crazy and left him behind. He'd paint himself as the victim. Let him. Tomorrow morning, when the local TV stations announce the final results, he'll check the news. He'll remember the numbers I'd filled in. He'd mocked me for these things before. He'd eventually realize what I'd taken, and the feeling, when he realizes he was just inches away from having $8 million, will be exquisite. The first stab in his heart, knowing he tried to steal it and failed, knowing I'd outsmarted him, 1,000 cuts. I walked to the window, gazing at the Seattle skyline in the rain, the city lights blurred in the downpour. 15 years ago, I'd looked at this city and felt small, poor, insignificant. Tonight, I owned it. I went into the kitchen, opened a can of cheap soup, and sat at the wobbly table. 4 hours until the drawing, 4 hours to plan the destruction of Derek Sterling and the complete reinvention of Nathan Cross. The rules of the game had changed. Now, I was the one making them. I promised myself one thing, I would be absolutely ruthless. The news anchor, a woman with thick hairspray and a stiff smile, chattered on about the local mayor's debate. I sat cross-legged on my ugly chair, the plaid couch, the metal safe rested on my lap. My eyes were fixed on the bulky cathode ray tube television. The digital clock on the set-top box read 10:58 p.m., the air in my apartment was thick and oppressive, humming with the static of a timeline about to snap. At exactly 11:00 p.m., the TV switched to the Super Lotto studio. The announcer's cheerful voice filled the room, accompanied by the mechanical clatter of plastic ping-pong balls tumbling inside a transparent acrylic sphere. All right, Washington. Let's see if anyone's lucky enough to win tonight's $84 million jackpot. The first number ball popped out. 7, my breath caught. I'd known these numbers all along, but seeing them materialize in reality still stunned me. My memory was terrifying. This proves I wasn't having a mental breakdown. Death by liver failure, 14, 21, 33, 49. Each number was a hammer blow, driving nails into the coffin of my old life. The Powerball number was 18. I didn't cheer. I didn't jump around. I didn't crack a beer. I just sat there, in the dark. The TV's blue glow on my face, and let out a breath that felt like it had been held for 15 years. I opened, took the heat sink from the metal box, checked the numbers on the screen one last time. A perfect match. The next morning, I didn't go to my college classes. Nathan Cross cared about a midterm paper on macroeconomics. He died in a hospice bed. Instead, I pulled on a baseball cap, tugged up. I yanked my jacket collar up and took the bus 3 towns over to a huge, nondescript big box electronics chain, bought a cheap, prepaid burner phone with cash, tucked it into a sturdy file safe. I sat in a corner booth of a noisy diner, pushing tasteless eggs around my plate. I powered on the burner. I didn't port my old number. I needed a clean slate. Next, I used a guest pass to sign in at the local public library. I logged onto one of their sluggish desktops and pulled up my email and Facebook. My inbox was a war zone area. My old carrier had logged 17 missed calls forwarded to my email, and 14 text messages forwarded to my desktop, apps and 5 Facebook messages, mostly from Derek. 10 out of 14 messages. 5:45 p.m. Dude, what the hell? You just drove off. Where are you? 6:30 p.m. Sarah had to come get me. You looked insane. Call me back. October 14th 11:45 p.m. Nate, pick up the damn phone. Number 1 a.m. 15 of 10. I know you have the ticket. We had a deal, man. 50-50. You don't want to play games with me. His messages went from annoyed to a dawning. It felt good to be directly threatened. I could picture him holed up in his dorm, pulling his hair out, screaming at the walls. He was inches from $8 million, and I'd just driven away with it without a second thought. There was one message from Sarah, 8 a.m., 10 of 15. Nathan, I'm really worried about you. Derek told me what happened at the gas station. He said you won the lottery and stole his ticket. Please tell me that's not true, right? Call me right now. We need to figure this out together. Together, he snorted, drawing a sharp look from the librarian at the front desk. In my previous life, she would have used that word. She'd already aligned herself with the so-called money before helping Derek bag up my stuff. If she thought Derek had a legitimate claim to it, she'd back him. I didn't reply to any of them. I permanently deleted my Facebook account. I logged out of my email, cleared the browser history, wiped Nathan Cross clean. Now it was time to build the fortress. If you lose everything in a relentless lawsuit, you learn one thing: justice is an illusion. The legal system is a machine, and the one with the best mechanic wins. In my last life, I'd hired a lawyer who practiced out of a strip mall, who smelled of stale gin and wore cheap suits. Derek hired Harrison Cole. Harrison Cole is a partner at Cole, Sterling and Vance, no relation to Derek Cole. Thankfully, he was one of the most intimidating yet efficient corporate litigation and wealth management firms in Seattle at the time. In the old timeline, Cole destroyed my life. He possessed a surgeon's clinical precision. He found the holes in my story, discredited my character, and got that ticket. Derek, this time, I'm hiring the devil myself. I walked into the sleek glass and mahogany lobby. At 2 in the afternoon, I looked out of place in my jeans and flannel shirt, carrying a worn backpack. arriving at Cole's downtown firm. My new document safe held my papers. The receptionist gave me a politely dismissive glance. "I need to see Harrison Cole," I said in an even tone. "Mr. Cole requires an appointment, sir," she replied without looking up from her monitor. "His retainer starts at $25,000. Tell him I have the sole winning ticket for last night's $8.4 million jackpot," I responded, leaning slightly forward over the marble counter. "Tell him I know a third party is about to file a lawsuit trying to claim the prize. I need him to establish a trust." The receptionist's fingers stopped typing. She looked up, her professional mask slipping for an instant. "One moment, please." 10 minutes later, I was sitting in a corner office with a panoramic view of Puget Sound. Harrison Cole walked in. He was tall, serious, nearing 60, wearing a custom charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than my car. He exuded an aura of absolute control. "Mr. Cross," Cole said, sitting behind his massive oak desk, his hands folded on the surface. "My receptionist tells me you have an $8 million document and anticipate a legal challenge. Let's see it." Without hesitation, I opened the file box and slid the pink slip across the polished wood. Cole didn't touch it. He simply leaned forward, glanced at the numbers, then at a printout on his desk. A tiny, almost imperceptible smile flickered at the corner of his mouth. "Congratulations. Now, who wants to take it from you?" I told him everything. Of course, I didn't mention the time travel, but I told him exactly what happened at Henderson's Gas and Go. I told him Derek verbally demanded 50%, pretended to take the ticket by force. When I refused, then pocketed it and left. At 1:12 a.m., he texted me, claiming we had a verbal agreement to split it 50-50. I told Cole, he's going to sue me. He'll likely claim he fronted the money, or that we had a legally binding oral partnership agreement. Cole leaned back, his gaze sharp. "Did he pay for the ticket?" "No, I paid with a $20 bill. I left the change on the counter and walked to my car." "Anything else?" "Does the gas station have cameras?" "Yes, right above the register." Cole nodded slowly. "Washington state allows winners to claim prizes through legal entities like blind trusts or LLCs for anonymity. But if this boy files for an injunction before we claim, the Lottery Commission will freeze the payout until the dispute is resolved in court. We need to move faster than him. We need to preempt his lawsuit. That's why I'm here. I want you to set up an LLC. We claim the ticket in the company's name tomorrow morning, but more importantly, I need you to destroy him before he even files the case officially. I want him completely crushed." Cole looked at me with an unprecedented sense of awe. He was used to dealing with panicked, lottery-winning fools in shock. He just wanted to buy sports cars. He wasn't used to 20-year-olds who could think 10 steps ahead in a legal war. "I can do this. Let's proceed on that basis, Mr. Cross," Cole said calmly. "But my fee for this kind of proactive, expedited defense, plus the trust setup costs will be quite substantial. A flat fee of £150,000, payable upfront, the lottery payout." In the past, I would have hesitated at that number. I didn't even blink. "Mr. Cole, prepare the documents and send an investigator to Henderson's gas station. Go buy the security footage from the property owner before Derek realizes he needs it." Cole smiled. "That's it." The great white shark smelled blood and grinned. It settled. 3 days later, the money hadn't arrived yet. The bank account for the newly formed Aegis Horizon Holdings LLC wasn't open yet, but the flight tickets were verified, and the bureaucracy was in motion. My mind started working. I was staying at a mid-range hotel near the airport, completely isolated. Harrison Cole had forbidden me from returning to my apartment. My burner phone rang. It was Cole. "Good morning, Nathan." Cole's deep voice came through the line, slightly raspy. "Our young friend, as you anticipated, has made his move. Tell me, Derek Sterling has hired a lawyer, a local named Bradley, sloppy but quite aggressive in style. They just filed for a temporary restraining order and a civil lawsuit against you in King County Superior Court, trying to freeze the lottery payout. He's claiming I breached an oral contract, committed fraud, and converted his property." A chill ran down my spine. "What's his specific legal basis?" Cole explained, his tone professionally amused. "He claims he provided the $20 bill used to purchase the ticket and that you explicitly agreed to a 50-50 partnership in front of the clerk. Furthermore, Cole paused for dramatic effect. He claims your girlfriend, Sarah Jenkins, was on speakerphone. The moment I heard about the transaction and the alleged oral agreement, I couldn't help but laugh. It was a harsh, bitter sound echoing in the empty hotel room. Derek was so predictable, Sarah so pliable. They were trying to fabricate a witness for a prior hearing. The timeline was so messed up because I let Derek hold the ticket, and I paid for the beers separately. His lie just unraveled, enough to bury me. A vicious smile touched my lips. They committed perjury in their affidavits, Cole agreed, because my investigator retrieved the hard drive from Mr. Henderson's security system yesterday. Cost Mr. Sandler low $5,000, Mr. Tisakala 2 through 7, Henderson's cooperation, but the footage is crystal clear HD. More importantly, the audio is pristine. What does it show? It shows you paying with a $20 bill from your own pocket. It shows Derek Sterling explicitly proposing a 50-50 split. It clearly records you refusing and saying you didn't want to share. It shows him trying to. He tried to snatch the ticket from the clerk, and you intercepted him. No speakerphone. He never touched his mobile device during the transaction. That's a brilliant move. I refused to communicate with Derek, completely ignoring him, forcing him into a state of panic. He thought I was afraid to run, because I knew he had the right to claim. Greedy by nature, he fabricated stories to swindle money, unaware that he was walking straight into a carefully designed trap. So, what's the next step, Harrison? I asked. We can't just file the motion to dismiss, Cole said, his voice dropping, his tone turned unusually serious. It's too quiet. Tomorrow morning, there will be a preliminary hearing for his temporary detention, a restraining order. He and his lawyer will be there, waiting for you to be absent. Since you've been missing, I'll represent you in court, and you'll play the video for the judge. Oh, much better than that, Nathan. I'm going to have Mr. Sterling's lawyer present his fabricated version to the court. I'll make him clear everything up, completely bury him. Then I'll submit the video as evidence, conclusively proving that Mr. Sterling and Miss Jenkins conspired to commit perjury and defraud $8 million in inheritance. Cole paused. I could almost hear him adjusting his silk tie. Nathan, by tomorrow afternoon, the judge won't dismiss their case. He'll likely turn Derek over to the authorities. Sterling and Sarah Jenkins will be referred to the district attorney's office for criminal charges of perjury and attempted theft of major property. You want him broken. Tomorrow, we strike hard. I walked to the window of the hotel, watching planes one by one fly toward Seattle's gray, overcast sky. In my past life, Derek had used the legal system as a weapon to execute me. Now, the same system was about to lock me in, the prison door behind him. Do it, I whispered. Leave them with nothing. King County Courthouse was a towering gray stone building, with majestic columns, emanating a faint scent of lemon polish, damp wool, and institutional despair. I didn't attend the hearing. Harrison Cole had made that clear. My absence would make them bolder. I sat in the cold, sterile airport hotel room, holding a lukewarm cup of black coffee, staring at a disposable phone resting on a plain particle board table. I didn't need to be there to know exactly how the massacre unfolded. Cole had detailed every aspect of his legal assassination to me. At 9:00 a.m., Judge Richard Olden called the court to order. Judge Olden was known for his no-nonsense attitude. He tolerated no frivolous civil disputes that wasted his time. According to the transcript I later read, Derek walked in wearing a poorly fitting navy blue suit, likely borrowed from a fraternity brother. He looked like a wronged, innocent college student. Sarah stood beside him, gripping his hand tightly, wearing a simple, she wore a beige dress. She perfectly played the role of the supportive, traumatized girlfriend. The irony made me nauseous. Their lawyer, a mid-tier attorney named Arthur Bradley, confidently approached the podium. Since I wasn't there, Bradley assumed I was on the run. He portrayed me as a desperate, greedy thief, someone who stole the golden lottery ticket from his generous, trusting friend. Your Honor, Bradley declared, his voice echoing in the empty room. My client, Derek Sterling, is the legitimate half-owner of the winning super lottery ticket. The ticket was purchased on October 14th. We have submitted an affidavit detailing the oral agreement made at the time of purchase. Mr. Sterling provided the funds and agreed to a clear, Oral 50-50 split. Additionally, we have the sworn affidavit of Miss Sarah Jenkins, who was present at the scene. Yes, you were on speakerphone. During the transaction, I personally heard Mr. Cross explicitly agree to the terms, after which he unlawfully seized the property. They fled the scene. Judge Alden glanced over his reading glasses at Harrison Cole, sitting alone at the defense table, looking as relaxed as a man waiting for a bus. Mr. Cole, Judge Alden murmured, your client is absent, and this affidavit is rather unfortunate. Do you have a motion to dismiss? Or shall we proceed to freeze the Lottery Commission's prize payout? Cole slowly rose to his feet, buttoning his tailored charcoal gray jacket. Your Honor, we do not seek dismissal. In fact, we welcome this hearing. However, I possess evidence that I believe will not only resolve this injunction immediately but also prompt the court to urgently address the plaintiff's conduct. Bradley scoffed loudly. Your Honor, this is an ambush. We are unprepared. It is a discovery, Mr. Bradley, because the evidence was obtained late last night and directly pertains to the authenticity of the affidavit your client submitted yesterday. Cole retorted smoothly. I have a USB drive containing high-definition security footage from Henderson's gas station, which shows Mr. Drellick's face turning deathly pale at the very moment of purchase. I can imagine the scene. He clearly, suddenly realized in horror that his lies were not just words carried by the wind but verifiable criminal acts. Judge Alden raised an eyebrow. Play it. A television cart was wheeled in. Cole plugged it in and powered it on. The screen flickered to life. The camera angle was perfect, positioned directly above Mr. Henderson's head, looking down at the counter, capturing my face and Drellick's with crystal clarity. The courtroom fell into dead silence as the recording played. You're paying for the beer, right? Drellick's voice rang out clear as a bell. I left my wallet in the dorm. I swear I'll Venmo you later. The lie was immediately exposed. Then my voice. I need a super draw ticket, please, custom numbers. The video showed me sliding my own $20 bill across the counter. It showed Derek leaning in, a mischievous smirk curling at the corner of his mouth. All right, let's put it this way. Since I'm your best friend, if you win, we split it 50-50 because I'm providing moral support. Then came the beautiful, devastating climax. My voice, calm and cold. No, the footage captured Drellick's shock, his attempt to snatch the ticket, grabbing my block, and firmly pocketing it. For the entire 2-minute clip, Derek's hands were empty, no phone, no speakerphone. Sarah Jenkins was a ghost in a fabricated tale. Cole paused the video. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, as the court can see, my client purchased the ticket with his own funds. He explicitly and verbally denied any partnership. Furthermore, the plaintiff, Derek Sterling, had no phone in his possession at the time, meaning Miss Jenkins's sworn testimony that she was on a speakerphone call is entirely and deliberately fabricated. The courtroom was silent, a heavy, suffocating silence, like a trap snapping shut. Judge Alden's face flushed crimson with fury. He slammed his gavel down with a crack that echoed like a gunshot. Sir Bradley, the judge roared, his voice trembling with rage, you submitted a false affidavit to the court. My client attempted to use the authority of my court to carry out an $8 million fraud scheme. Bradley stammered, involuntarily stepping back as if his client were radioactive. Your Honor, I had absolutely no idea I was relying on my client's sworn testimony. This matter is best left to the disciplinary committee's counsel. Alden suddenly erupted in fury. He stared directly at Derek and Sarah. Sarah burst into hysterical sobs, burying her face in her hands. Derek froze, gaping at the frozen video feed like a suffocating fish. The motion for a temporary restraining order was denied. Judge Alden declared, the plaintiff's civil suit is dismissed with prejudice, and, bailiff, do not allow Mr. Sterling or Ms. Jenkins to leave this room. I am referring this matter immediately to the district attorney's office. I want them investigated for felony perjury, filing a false police report, and attempted grand theft. When Cole called me, an hour later, as I recounted the scene, I felt no sense of victory, only a cold, deep, and terrifying calm. The tumor had been excised, the timeline had been officially broken, they were in custody. Nathan, Cole said with a rare note of satisfaction, the Lottery Commission will wire the funds To the Aegis Horizon LLC account by tomorrow morning, you are a very wealthy young man, and your former friends are facing up to 5 years in state prison. I looked out the hotel window. The Seattle rain had finally stopped, and a faint, bright beam of sunlight pierced the gray clouds. Thank you, Harrison, I said softly. Don't thank me, Nathan. You handed me the murder weapon and a map to the body. What are you going to do now? I smiled. I'm going to buy my life back. The money hit the Aegis Horizon Trust account at 8:15 a.m. the following Tuesday. After taxes, the lump sum was approximately $2 million. For an experienced billionaire, that's pocket change, but for a 20-year-old living on instant noodles and cheap beer, it was the raw material for building a kingdom. I didn't buy a Lamborghini. I didn't throw a massive party. The trauma of my past life had long since burned away any frivolous youthfulness. I understood all too well how easily wealth could be stolen, mismanaged, or squandered. My first step was to leave that decaying apartment building. I rented a sleek, ultra-secure penthouse in Bellevue with a water view, keycard access to the building, keycard for the elevator, 24-hour concierge. It was a fortress of glass and steel. Then I went to work. In my previous life, Derek took my money and stumbled his way into amassing a massive tech fortune. He wrote the legend of the early 2010s tech boom. He was a major early investor in a startup called OmniCloud Solutions. He poured $1 million into an emerging mobile ride-sharing app before they went public. I knew the exact dates these companies were seeking angel investors. I even knew their earnings before their quarterly reports were released. It was the ultimate cheat code. Leveraging Harrison Cole's connections, I hired a top-tier wealth management firm and began actively deploying my capital. I had defeated Derek. The future ghost was set to arrive in the spring of 2012, while my peers were still stressing over final exams and fraternity parties. I had already secured a 10% equity stake in OmniCloud. By 2013, my investment in ride-hailing had tripled. I was relentless. If I remembered a company from my past life going under, I wouldn't hesitate to strike. I shorted their stock. If I recalled a real estate boom in a specific Seattle neighborhood, I'd snap up commercial properties there before the developers even knew they wanted them. I watched the numbers in my portfolio climb with a detached fascination. 10 million, 25 million, 50 million. As I ascended, I maintained a quiet, vigilant gaze. The case against Derek Sterling was closed. The criminal justice system moved slowly, but when it involved a wealthy, high-profile individual, things were different. The victim, represented by a shark like Harrison Cole, was already dead, leaving behind video evidence that was meticulously documented. Faced with irrefutable evidence of perjury and attempted fraud, the district attorney didn't go easy on them. They played hardball. They separated Derek and Sarah, placing them in different interrogation rooms and presenting them with the classic prisoner's dilemma. Sarah cracked first. In a desperate bid to avoid jail time, she betrayed Derek completely. She claimed Derek was the mastermind. He had coerced her, threatened to ruin her reputation on campus, and manipulated her into lying in the affidavit. It was a lie, of course. She had done it willingly, out of pure greed, but the DA accepted her story. She was sentenced to 3 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and was quietly expelled from the university. Her reputation in our social circle was utterly destroyed. Derek didn't fare much better. Without Sarah's testimony, his defense crumbled. His parents drained their entire retirement savings to hire a lawyer. They brought in a criminal defense attorney, but it was useless. To avoid a lengthy trial, which would have meant 5 years in prison, Derek accepted a plea deal. He was sentenced to 18 months in a state prison in Washington for felony perjury and conspiracy to commit fraud. I remember the day he was sentenced. I was sitting in an upscale sushi restaurant in downtown Seattle, finalizing a real estate deal that would net me a hefty profit, another $4 million. I saw his photo flash across the screen on the local news broadcast playing on the TV above the bar. He looked terrifyingly fragile. His golden hair had been shaved off. His eyes, once so bright, so smug and arrogant, were now dull and empty. The fraternity boy charm had been stripped away, revealing the truth beneath. At his core, he was just a cowardly, ordinary person. I raised my glass of soda in a silent toast to the TV screen. Are we even now, bro? I thought, but I knew we weren't. We were never even. I was a god, and he was just a bug, unintentionally stepped on. The years blurred into a montage of boardrooms, luxury flights, and compound interest. By 2018, Aegis Horizon Holdings had grown into a massive, diversified conglomerate. I held tech stocks, commercial real estate, and a boutique venture capital firm. My net worth exceeds $300 million, the threshold. I have everything I've ever wanted. I've dated brilliant, successful women, but none of them were interested in me, because they had their own bank accounts. My money stayed in my bank account. I've traveled the world. I built a private hospital building and donated it anonymously. With this piece, I silently mourn the miserable hospice bed where I died in my past life. Yet, despite everything, the shadow of October 14, 2011, has never truly left me. I carry it like cold air, clinging to me. A stone presses against my chest. You can't go through such immense betrayal, followed by that surreal horror, resurrection, and then truly returning to normalcy. My secret isolates me. I can't tell anyone how I built this empire, because they'd lock me away in a psychiatric ward. I stand alone at the peak of the world. Then, 15 years later, as I stepped out of Henderson's gas station into the cold rain, the universe decided to complete the cycle. It was December 2026. I was 35, the exact age I had died of liver failure in the original timeline. What a coincidence. I understood it perfectly. At the time, I was attending the Winter Solstice Gala at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel in downtown Seattle. It was a grand charity dinner, packed with politicians, tech billionaires, and old money aristocrats. I attended as one of the main donors, wearing a Tom Ford custom tuxedo, sipping a $300 scotch. The ballroom was stiflingly hot, filled with the scent of expensive perfume and roasted pheasant. I needed fresh air. I slipped out quietly, past the heavy velvet drapes, down the quiet marble corridor toward the back door, intending to get some air. The winter air in the courtyard was crisp and biting. I pushed open the heavy brass door, and a man in a black catering uniform, carrying a towering stack of dirty plates, came rushing around the corner. We collided. The plates crashed to the marble floor with a deafening noise. Shards of porcelain and leftover food scattered across my polished Oxford cloth shoes. Damn, the server muttered a curse, immediately dropping to his knees, hands trembling as he frantically tried to pick up the broken glass. I'm sorry, sir, I'm so sorry. Please don't report this to the manager. They'll deduct my pay. I looked down. The man was thin, his uniform hanging loosely on his frame. He was gaunt, with sparse hair streaked with premature gray. Deep lines etched his face from stress and exhaustion, along with permanent scars from hardship and struggle. That was Derek Sterling. In that moment, the world seemed to stop. The noise of the grand banquet behind me faded away. 15 years between us solidified into a suffocating instant. Look at him. The man who once wore tailored suits and lived in luxury apartments, who graced magazine covers with a radiant smile in his past life. Now, he's rotting away. He's 35 now, a convicted felon with a criminal record that bars him from any meaningful corporate job, and here he is, washing dishes at my own party. It's fine, I said, my voice unnaturally calm. Don't worry about it. The cleaning staff will take care of it. Something in my tone made him pause. He slowly lifted his head, his gaze moving from the floor to mine. Blood trickled from his hand, gripping a shard of porcelain tightly. His eyes locked onto mine. I watched the gears turn rapidly in his mind, first confusion, then dawning realization, and finally, complete, suffocating terror. Nate, he whispered. The name coming from his mouth sounded like a curse. I didn't help him up. I just looked down at him. It's Nathan now. Derek. He slowly rose to his feet, completely ignoring the blood dripping from his body. He looked at my tuxedo, the diamond stud in my cuff, that unmistakable aura of extreme wealth. He surrounded me, then he looked down at his stained, greasy service uniform. A dark, ugly emotion twisted his face. That familiar sense of privilege I'd known from the convenience store, warped over 15 years into bitter resentment. Failure, you, Derek gasped, his voice trembling with both awe and utter hatred. I saw your name, the file, Aegis Horizon. You took the money, you took the ticket, you got me that lawyer. You destroyed everything I had, you destroyed my life, all because of a piece of paper. He took one step closer, fists clenched tight. He didn't move, I'd arranged security at the door, but I didn't call them. I wanted to hear this with my own ears. We were friends, Nate, Derek snapped. Pure defeat welled up in his eyes, tears forming. We were brothers, and you destroyed me. You put me in a cage. My parents went bankrupt to keep me out of prison. Sarah left me. You destroyed everything I had. Just because you were too greedy to share the lottery winnings, the ticket. His shameless act of playing the victim was staggering. Even after all this, he still thought he was the victim. He still believed he was entitled to something. It was mine. I took one slow step forward, closing the distance until I could smell the stale sweat and dish soap on his uniform. We never, brothers, Derek said, my voice low and dangerously soft. You're a parasite. You used me, you fed off me. That night at the gas station, you planned to steal that gas card all along. You know it, I know it. You can't know, he screamed, his voice laced with madness. You can't know what I would have done. You set the trap before I even realized it. What did I do wrong? I stared into his hollow eyes. For 15 years, I'd kept the secret of my rebirth to myself. I never told anyone. But looking at Derek, completely broken, utterly ruined, I couldn't help but think. The feeling of driving the final dagger into his heart was unbearable. I leaned in, my lips almost touching his ear. But I know, Derek, I whispered, my voice as cold as the grave I'd crawled out of. I know exactly what you would have done. He froze, his breath quickening. If I'd let you hold on to that ticket, I murmured, you'd have claimed you bought it. You'd hire Harrison Cole. You'd have me killed in court. You'd take Sarah, move into. He bought the penthouse, built an empire with my money. Derek tilted his head back, staring at me as if I were a terrifying stranger. How could this be? How could you do this, when your betrayal broke me? Finally damaging my liver, I continued, locking my gaze on him, refusing to let him look away. When I lay dying on a cheap hospice bed, even if I drowned in my own fluids, you wouldn't come to see me. You'd let me die with nothing. Derek trembled violently now. Blood dripped from his hands onto the marble floor, rhythmic, audible click-clack. You're insane, he choked out. You're a psychopath. No, I took a step back, adjusting my cufflinks. I'm just an ordinary person. You've been given a second chance to make up for the colossal mistake you made. Derek, you didn't end up in prison because I framed you, but because of the choices you made back then. Did you think you could take what was mine? The universe has finally given you the reward you deserve. I turned away, placing my hand on the brass handle. The door opened. Clean up the mess, Derek, I said without looking back, and don't speak to me again. I pushed the door open and walked out, stepping through the door. Leaving the cold outdoors behind, I re-entered the warm ballroom, listening to the music and feeling the dazzling lights. I didn't look back. I didn't need to look back. It was all over. The past was in the past. Nathan Cross, the gullible, easily deceived college student, was long gone, but the person who replaced him would live on forever. If the universe gave you a cosmic reset button, what would you do? Would you forgive those who hurt you, or would you use your knowledge to utterly destroy their lives before they even had a chance to fight back? Nathan Cross chose a cold-blooded, ruthless path of revenge, turning $8 million into a fortune. A lottery ticket became a weapon of mass destruction against a drug-addicted friend. This story proves that the most powerful superpower isn't flight or invisibility. It's knowing exactly where your enemies are and having the strength to ensure they never see it coming. Story 2. I am the true daughter of a wealthy family who was lost and found, yet my parents believed the fake daughter over me. On the day I was found and returned home, the fake daughter staged a fall to falsely accuse me of pushing her. I desperately tried to explain, but my parents still didn't believe me. Ying has been our daughter for 6 years. Do you think I wouldn't know if she would do something like this? As punishment, my master bedroom was turned into a dark tool shed. The fake heiress became increasingly arrogant. She stole confidential information and sent it to competitors, framing me as someone who was bought out for money. Dad's gaze towards me no longer held any guilt. The reunion banquet was also cancelled. After that, she even slashed her wrist and accused me of trying to kill her. This time, I recorded the conversation on my phone, thinking it would prove my innocence, but after hearing it, my parents slapped me. You prepared so thoroughly. And you still say you didn't want Ying dead. They threw me into an orphanage, where I was strangled to death by someone bribed by the fake heiress. Before I closed my eyes, I heard the fake heiress's light laughter. I've been with them for so many years, you can't outmatch me just by blood ties. Returning as a soul to the underworld, I cried day and night on the bridge of forgetfulness. The king of hell was annoyed by me and gave me a chance to be reborn into my mother's womb again. This time, I became my parents' late-in-life child. I'm going to see how you, this fake young lady, will compete with me. With a turn of my soul, my entire body was immersed in the warm amniotic fluid. Looking down at my slightly purple little arms and legs, my heart tightened. How could I be so thin? I quickly gripped the umbilical cord, eagerly absorbing the nutrients from my mother. At that moment, a gentle voice came from outside. Mom, the medicine in the little kitchen is ready, and Ying is bringing it to you. It's Lu Ying, her voice. I would never forget it, even if I died. In my previous life, she took advantage of my parents' trust and framed me again and again. In this life, I am the child my parents dote on. I will make sure she experiences all the suffering I endured. With this thought, I worked even harder to absorb the nutrients, but soon, a fierce burning sensation spread throughout my body, and my breathing suddenly became rapid. Outside, I heard my mother's disapproving smacking sound. This pregnancy tonic is too bitter. Will the baby like it? Lu Ying's sweet, cloying voice rang out. Mom, you always tell me that good medicine tastes bitter when you coax me to take my medicine. Why are you being so stubborn when it's your turn? But this is for the sake of your brother. Later, Ying will give Mom some candy, and it won't taste bitter anymore. Something's not right. Something's not right. Based on my understanding of Lu Ying, there must be something added to this medicine. I kicked my mother's belly in fright. This baby had always been quiet and had never caused such trouble before. Mother let out a startled cry, quickly put down the medicine bowl, and gently touched her belly, speaking softly. What's wrong with the baby? Just as I was about to kick again to signal, I heard Lu Ying exclaim with great joy, this medicine really works. My brother is much livelier now. Hearing this, my mother's eyes lit up, and without hesitation, she took another big gulp, feeling the constant pain. I kicked wildly and rolled around in the amniotic fluid, even tugging hard on the umbilical cord, fearing my mother wouldn't understand my hints, but she endured the pain and, with her head held high, drank all the medicine. The medicine flowed in through the umbilical cord. I aimed at the spot and kicked hard towards my mother's stomach. That kick finally overwhelmed my mother, who rushed to the bathroom, covering her mouth. The medicine she had just swallowed came gushing out. As soon as the medicine was vomited, I quietly lay back in place. My mother frowned, her gaze falling on the dark residue at the bottom of the bowl. Wang, the steward, hurry and send this medicinal residue for testing. Lu Ying's voice was slightly strained. Mom, are you overthinking it? Maybe it's just that the younger brother finds the medicine bitter. But her mother's expression remained grim. This pregnancy has not been smooth, and for the sake of blessing, Dad just donated 30 million to the temple. Mother drank the unbearably bitter traditional Chinese medicine every day, all to preserve the roots of the Lu family. Better to kill mistakenly than to let slip by. Seeing the test results, Mother felt her scalp tingle. In that bowl of medicine for preventing miscarriage, a large amount of saffron had been added. The precious son that the Lu family had been waiting for half their lives almost didn't make it. According to the housekeeper, on that day, besides a few servants, only Lu Ying entered the kitchen. The servants had signed a huge liability agreement, so they had no reason to do such a thing. Thinking of a certain possibility, the mother's hands trembled. Ying, could it be you? Lu Ying's eyes darted away. I didn't. Seeing the doubt still lingering on her mother's face, she secretly pinched her wrist hard. I really just went to bring medicine for Mom, and I accidentally splashed it on my hand. Mom, it hurts. Watching Lu Ying's swollen skin, her mother frowned slightly and quickly pulled her hand over, gently blowing on it. However, the doubt lingering in her heart did not dissipate. A few days later, all the servants in the small kitchen were replaced, and hundreds of surveillance cameras were installed overnight throughout the villa. Lu Ying could no longer find an opportunity to act, and I grew up safely and steadily in my mother's womb. Finally, the due date arrived, and I was born safely. With my loud cries, the nurse smiled and handed me to another person. My vision was still blurry, but I recognized this face. It was my amazing dad, who was always so impressive. I grinned with my toothless mouth and smiled at him. His eyes lit up, almost running to his mother's bedside. Look quickly, our son is smiling at us. Oh, what a good baby, this nose, these eyes, they're just like mine, carved from the same mold. At that moment, Lu Ying also pretended to be delighted and came over, holding a toy car, but as soon as she saw my face, which was extremely similar to my previous life, her expression froze instantly. Her eyes glaring at me, I pretended to be startled, opened my mouth with a loud, wow, and wailed with all my might. Dad was startled and flustered, patting my back and soothing me gently without stopping, but the more he soothed, the louder I cried, my voice so shrill that the entire floor could hear it. Lu Ying gritted her teeth, wanting to step forward to help, but as soon as her hand touched the swaddle, my cries instantly escalated several notches. Mom couldn't help but frown, her tone carrying a hint of reproach. Your brother is shy, don't touch him for now, look how scared he is. Hearing this, Lu Ying tightly clenched her pale palms, stomped her feet, and turned to run out of the ward, but at this moment, Mom and Dad were both surrounding me, not even sparing her a glance. As soon as she left, I immediately stopped crying and instead grinned, amusing Mom and Dad, who couldn't help but laugh along. For the next entire month, the entire Lu family was completely focused on me. When I cried, the whole family was restless. When I smiled, the whole family was filled with joy. Lu Ying pretended to be timid, asking Mom and Dad to accompany her while she painted. Mom and Dad were just praising my smile when they heard Lu Ying's voice, not even bothering to look up. Brother needs company, would it be okay for you to be alone for a while? The venom in her gaze grew more intense. It wasn't until a quiet evening that she sneaked into the nursery, seeing me asleep. A malicious smile curled at the corner of her mouth. She quietly took out a piece of candy from her pocket and slipped it into my mouth. An unusual sensation came from my mouth, and I woke up with a start, just in time to see Lu Ying's triumphant smile. When you're completely turned into a fool, let's see how you can compete with me. My mind became dizzy, and my consciousness was gradually fading. Lu Ying's smile grew wider and wider on her face. No way. I swung my arms with all my might and finally managed to press the call button on the crib just in time. In the next instant, all the lights in the room suddenly lit up, the door was violently pushed open, and upon seeing the scene inside, Dad rushed forward and grabbed Lu Ying's hand. What are you doing? Dad pulled me into his embrace, quickly removing the object from my mouth. The wailing grew louder, and he gently patted my back to soothe me while shooting a cold glare at Lu Ying. Lu Ying swallowed hard, her voice trembling. Dad, I was wrong. I only gave candy to my little brother to get closer to him. She looked up with her tear-filled eyes. I thought, maybe then, Mom and Dad would pay more attention to me. In the past, Dad would have already softened, since it involved the only heir of the Lu family. Father's tone eventually hardened. Tomorrow, move to the apartment near your school. I'll arrange for someone to take care of you. Lu Ying froze on the spot. She hadn't expected her father to be so resolute. No matter how much she cried and pleaded, her father never looked back. That night, Lu Ying knelt in the living room for a full night, only hoping that her parents would change their minds, but she still underestimated my position in their hearts. After this incident, my father hired several nannies for several months, working in shifts day and night to take care of me. Fearing any further mishaps, I was raised plump and healthy, quickly learning to roll over and sit up, babbling and reaching out to my parents for a hug. The brightness in their smiles was something I had never seen in my previous life. Mom and Dad gave me a name, Lu Shuren, which means I am always safe and healthy. As days went by, my first birthday celebration arrived. After Lu Ying repeatedly begged for forgiveness and admitted her mistakes, Mom and Dad finally agreed to let her return to the Lu family. Seeing Mom and Dad, she immediately stood up straight and spoke in a voice as soft as a mosquito. Mom, Dad, I know I was wrong. Her mother looked at her with a complex expression, sighed, and remained silent. Her father gave a casual, and his gaze lingered only on me. There aren't many rooms left at home, so you'll have to make do with the room at the stair landing. It was a damp and dark storage room, the same place where I had lived in my previous life. Watching that small bedroom, a barely noticeable resentment and unwillingness flashed in Lu Ying's eyes. But now, she had no choice. The first birthday banquet began on time, and I was dressed like a little prince. As I waited for my parents, Lu Ying slipped into my bedroom and locked the door. She kicked me hard in the chest. You filthy wretch, who gave you the right to take my things? Die, you. My body burned with pain as I stood up, biting down on her hand. She yanked her hand away in pain, then slapped me across the face in anger and embarrassment. Still dare to fight back. This is a blind spot for surveillance. Even if you complain, no one will believe you. She clawed at my face with her nails, twisted the tender flesh of my thigh, and slapped me several times. She said menacingly, "Don't provoke me again, or I'll make you pay." After saying that, she poured a bottle of potion over me. In no time, all the red marks on my body had disappeared. She was extremely pleased with herself. "Let's see how you'll complain now." She let me go. I stared intently at her retreating figure, my peripheral vision catching the red light blinking from the hidden camera placed on the corner of the table. The moment had finally come. When Mom and Dad came to find me, they saw me lying on the ground, wailing unrestrainedly. They were startled and quickly picked me up, asking what had happened. Sister hit me." Dad's cold gaze fell on Lu Ying. Her tears came on cue. "Xian, you can't frame me just because you dislike me, can you? I've been in my own room the whole time, nowhere else." My crying grew even louder, and quite a few guests had already gathered at the door. "Wang, the steward, go retrieve the surveillance footage." 10 minutes later, the steward Wang entered with a dark expression. "Master, madam, the external surveillance indeed did not capture the young lady entering the young master's room." As soon as the words left his mouth, my parents also furrowed their brows, looking at me with suspicion. Lu Ying suppressed the slight upward curve of her lips, her voice trembling with a sob. "I told you." But before she could finish, the butler continued, "But the surveillance in the young master's room captured." The large screen beside her suddenly flickered, and then the clear video footage appeared, documenting Lu Ying's recent violent act. After the video ended, Lu Ying's face turned ashen. She opened her mouth, wanting to explain. Mother's voice trembled. "How could you be so heartless? He's your brother." Seeing me cry so bitterly, Father's eyes instantly reddened. Without a word, he raised his hand and slapped Lu Ying hard across the face. Lu Ying covered her swollen face, tears streaming down. "He forged it. He's framing me." Dad laughed in anger. "How old is he? What does he know?" "Wang, the butler, get this person out of here right now, and from today onwards, she is never to set foot in the Lu family's house again." Several security guards quickly stepped forward, dragging Lu Ying out. They threw her out the door like a piece of trash. The birthday party ended in chaos, and the villa once again descended into silence. My parents, fearful that I might be traumatized, stayed by my bedside until I fell asleep before finally leaving. After what felt like an eternity, the slightest sound suddenly came from the window of my room. I opened my eyes slightly, only to see a dark figure slip in silently, using duct tape to firmly seal my mouth. I instantly snapped awake, and upon seeing the person, my whole body trembled. This person was actually the beggar ringleader from my previous life, the one who abducted me. Lu Ying stepped out of the shadows and, without hesitation, slapped me across the face, her voice filled with hatred. "It's all because of you, you wretched thing, taking my room, taking my heir status, taking everything from me. Without you, everything in the Lu family would have been mine." She grabbed my hair and slammed my head hard against the floor. Panting heavily, she laughed with twisted satisfaction. "I had someone take care of the surveillance on this floor long ago. After today, even if Mom and Dad don't acknowledge me, they'll have no choice but to leave the family fortune to me." In a daze, I felt myself being roughly shoved into a small suitcase. The zipper was pulled shut, instantly cutting off all sound from me. The suitcase was lifted and swayed unsteadily as it was lowered out of the window. From outside, Lu Ying's icy and triumphant voice faintly reached my ears as she instructed the man, "Sell him far away, whether it's Myanmar or the Golden Triangle. Don't let him die easily. Blind one eye, break one leg. I want him to live like a dog, crawling on the ground for the rest of his life." The suitcase containing me was thrown into the trunk, and the van sped away from the villa. Lu Ying sneered and muttered, "You little bastard, go reunite with your short-lived sister in hell. The Lu family fortune is mine now." But as she turned around, the sight before her drained all color from her face. "Dad, Mom, what are you doing here?" In the pitch darkness, I slowly opened my eyes. I slightly shifted my bound hands, reaching into the inner pocket of my pants, and felt the gift my dad had given me a few days ago, a children's smartwatch. The watch face lit up, and without hesitation, I pressed the button. Almost at the same moment, 300 high-decibel buzzers erupted wildly in every corner of the Liu family villa. The truck traveled for nearly 2 hours before finally coming to a stop. The zipper was roughly pulled open, and blinding fluorescent light flooded in, allowing me to see that nightmare-like face clearly. The scar-faced man leading the group was none other than Li Guidu, the beggar ringleader, who had completely crushed my life in my previous existence. The lackey beside him was eyeing me and the other children tied up in the corner with an excited gleam in his eyes. Damn, this little bastard from the Liu family has such delicate skin and tender flesh. He'll definitely fetch a good price. Ying said not to rush into selling him yet. Li Guidu said casually, a cigarette dangling from his mouth. We need to process him properly, break one of his legs, blind one of his eyes. When people see how pitiful he is, they'll give more in alms. The children in the warehouse were sobbing in a stifled manner. One little girl was so frightened that she wet her pants, which immediately earned her a round of punches and kicks. I clearly caught the intimate way Li Guidu addressed Lu Ying. My voice rang out hoarsely. You traffic children, commit murder and arson, and have done so much evil. Aren't you afraid of retribution? They froze for a moment, then burst into wild laughter. Ha 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 ha, karma. Li Guidu bent down and pressed the burning cigarette but hard against the center of my forehead. The sharp sting of burning flesh instantly shot through me. I gritted my teeth and looked up, staring at him intently. Anyway, you can't go back now. I'll let you die with clarity. You originally had an older sister, but what a pity. Right after she was born, I swapped her out and replaced her with my own child. If I kill you now, she will become the Liu family's sole heir. At that point, who would dare to touch me? Why waste words on him? The thug threw a chainsaw toward Li Guidu. Hurry up and get it done, or we'll be too late. Li Guidu raised the rusty saw, aiming it toward my right leg. Better to make you a human pig and sell you to Southeast Asia. The price is higher. He pressed the switch, and the chainsaw instantly roared to life, slowly inching toward my thigh. At the critical moment, the warehouse door was violently kicked open from the outside, and a blinding flashlight beam struck Li Guidu. Damn it, he cursed under his breath, but the chainsaw in his hand continued to saw toward me. But a sharp gunshot rang out. Li Guidu screamed in agony, clutching his wrist as he fell to the ground, blood seeping through his fingers. Well-trained armed police officers descended like divine soldiers, swiftly taking control of the scene and pinning the kidnappers firmly to the ground. Other police officers rushed to the corner, freeing the bound children. The tape on my mouth was gently peeled off, and the next second I was pulled into a warm embrace. It's okay, Shuren, Mom is here. It's all Mom's fault. Mom didn't protect Shuren well enough. Dad's icy gaze swept over the kidnapper on the ground, his voice filled with undisguised, overwhelming fury. Investigate, dig to the very bottom. Not a single person involved in this matter is to be spared. I want them to suffer a fate worse than death. I peeked out from my mother's embrace and gently tugged at my father's sleeve. Dad, it sounded like those bad guys just mentioned. It was my sister. As soon as the words fell, the entire warehouse suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Dad's voice was terrifyingly low. Where is Lu Ying now? The butler stepped forward, speaking at an extremely fast pace. After the young lady was driven out, she went to the daughter of President Wang. Without hesitation, Mom and Dad took me straight to the Wang family villa. Lu Ying saw her parents, first stunned, then her eyes quickly reddened. Mom, Dad, you've finally come to pick me up. She reached out and took her mother's hand, her voice choked with tears. I won't be willful anymore. From now on, I'll be obedient and be a good daughter. Before she could finish speaking, I peeked my head out from behind my mother. The tears on Lu Ying's face instantly froze, her pupils filled with unconcealable horror. Little brother, you're here too. Dad crouched down to pick me up, looking at Lu Ying as if she were already dead. Was it you who hired the traffickers to try and sell your little brother? Time seemed to freeze for a few seconds. Lu Ying's forehead was beaded with fine sweat as she forced herself to remain calm. Dad, what are you talking about? When was my brother kidnapped? He's perfectly fine now, isn't he? Did my brother complain again? He's still young and might be talking nonsense. I spent the whole evening with Xiaoya and never left the house. She anxiously grabbed the arm of the Wang family's daughter beside her. Xiaoya, tell my parents quickly, I've been here the whole time, right? The Wang family's daughter looked a bit flustered but nodded. Yes, uncle and aunt. Ying has been with me the whole time, I can vouch for her. Mom and Dad turned their gaze toward me, seeming somewhat shaken. Mom crouched down and coaxed patiently. Sharon, did you really hear the kidnappers say that? Could it be that they were lying? Just then, the butler hurried forward. Sir, madam, the kidnappers are adamant that they were driven by greed for the Liu family's wealth, momentarily blinded by temptation. They also said that what they told the young master earlier was just boasting, and they haven't implicated anyone else. Lu Ying seemed to have grasped a lifeline. You heard that, Sharon. Sister knows you've been frightened, but you can't falsely accuse me like this. I grew up in the Liu family since childhood. How could I possibly have any contact with those human traffickers? She looked at her parents, her eyes filled with sorrow. Dad, Mom, you have to believe me. All eyes were fixed on me, some filled with doubt, others with concern. I didn't say a word, just pulled out the phone watch from inside my pants and gently tapped the screen twice. Lu Ying's sharp, piercing scream echoed from the speaker. You took my room, you took my parents, you took everything from me. If it weren't for you, everything in the Liu family would have been mine. Sell him far away, whether it's Myanmar or the Golden Triangle. Don't let him die easily. Blind one eye, break one leg. I want him to live like a dog, crawling on the ground for the rest of his life. Lu Sharon, farewell forever. The last trace of color drained from Lu Ying's face, leaving it as pale as paper. No, this can't be real. It's forged. She repeatedly denied it, but her voice trembled uncontrollably. Mother covered her mouth with her hand. Her eyes filled with shock and deep pain. Father's chest heaved violently, his voice carrying an unprecedented chill. Lu Ying, after raising you for over a decade, the Liu family has nurtured such a venomous creature. To harm your own brother for the sake of the family fortune. Mother's voice trembled but was resolute. Send her to the police station. Let her repent in prison for what she has done. No one said anything more. Even the Wang family's daughter shook off Lu Ying's hand and stood against her. Prison. Lu Ying suddenly burst into hysterical laughter. She pointed her finger at all of us, her eyes filled with resentment and unwillingness. Me, vicious and scheming, me, plotting against my brother. Why don't you ask yourselves, ever since Lu Sharon, your precious son, was born, have I ever been in your eyes? Everything is his. What am I? A vase for marriage and decoration. Even the company's shares and trust funds were planned out for him long ago. And me, a house and a little dowry. And that's it. You forced me into this. You drove me to this point. What's wrong with me taking back what rightfully belongs to me? Her tears smeared her delicate makeup, making her look like a madwoman. Mom and Dad's gazes seemed to soften slightly as they looked at her. I spoke up at just the right moment. Mom and Dad, that bad man said he is actually Sister's biological father. He also said I have another sister, and that he deliberately switched his own child with her, all to make Sister Lu Ying the heir of the Liu family. As soon as the words were spoken, Mom and Dad froze for a moment. They seemed to finally remember their own biological daughter who had passed away early, yet at the time, they had repeatedly favored this malicious adopted daughter. So what? Lu Ying's gaze, tinged with hatred, swept over me. I am the eldest daughter of the Liu family. I'm not even 16 yet. Even if I admit it, what can you do to me? At most, you'll lecture me a few times. Can you really arrest me and send me to jail? The law protects minors, do you understand? Dad wearily pressed his fingers to his temples. It seemed as though he was truly seeing this daughter for the first time. Steward Wang, make the arrangements, have Lu Ying's household registration transferred out, then send her to the orphanage. The color drained from Lu Ying's face in an instant. I can't go there. It's no place for people. My surname is Lu. I'm a member of the Liu family. She lunged forward, trying to grab her father's pant leg, but was stopped by the bodyguard beside him. Her father looked down at her from above, the last trace of warmth in his eyes extinguished. Lu Ying's piercing scream tore through the night sky, but the two bodyguards expressionlessly lifted her up and dragged her toward the waiting car in the distance. Lu Ying was sent to a strictly managed, closed-off orphanage. It was located in a remote, isolated area. Her father had arranged for people to keep a close watch on her. Nurtured by the Liu family's top-tier resources, I quickly grew into the family's undisputed pride and the flawless heir in my parents' eyes. At the age of 10, the orphanage received news that Lu Ying had run away due to negligence. Upon hearing this, Mom and Dad immediately added dozens more bodyguards for me, fearing that Luing might harm me again. However, Luing never appeared by our side until one autumn day. My parents took me to a mountain villa in the suburbs for a vacation. The convoy passed through a secluded path, and the driver suddenly stopped the car, only mentioning that there were people blocking the road ahead. A few young delinquents with exaggerated outfits and multicolored dyed hair stood in front, glaring at a trembling girl they had surrounded. The girl at the front stood with her back to us, clad in cheap, tight clothing and ripped jeans, her hair dry and frizzy, her mouth constantly muttering curses. "Hurry up, what are you dawdling for? This month's protection money." The girl tremblingly took out a crumpled wad of bills from her pocket, which was quickly snatched away by the delinquent girl, who continued to complain about the small amount. The goal achieved, the group turned around with smiles. It was only then that we realized the leader of the gang was Luing. She saw us too, and her whole body froze in place as if petrified. The girl who had been cornered took the opportunity to run away, and the other yellow-haired gang members also sensed something was amiss, looking at each other in confusion. Luing, however, seemed not to notice them. Her eyes locked onto our car, and she slowly walked towards us. The bodyguard immediately stepped forward to block her. "Dad, Mom," she called out hoarsely, separated by the bodyguards. "It's me, I'm Ying. I've suffered so much outside." Her gaze tried to penetrate the car window, searching for me. "Xian, sister is sorry for you." Back then, it was sister who was bewitched. "Will you forgive sister?" "Okay." The car window slowly lowered halfway, revealing Dad's stern profile. "You're mistaken. The Lu family has only one child, named Lu. Xian, you know your own surname." When he finished speaking, the car window rose, silently cutting off the two worlds inside and outside. The car suddenly accelerated and drove away. Luing stumbled and chased after the car, shouting and pleading, looking like a complete madman. In the rearview mirror, she was suddenly tripped by an uneven road, her figure growing smaller and smaller until it became an indistinguishable black shadow. This woman who once trampled me into the mud and became a nightmare for me has finally completely disappeared from my life. Shortly after my 18th birthday, my father summoned me to his study. The heavy mahogany desk was devoid of unnecessary items, only holding a single document. I picked up the document, which was a share transfer agreement. My father was transferring 20% of the shares of Lu Corporation to me. He patted my shoulder approvingly. "You did very well, better than I imagined. The future of the Lu family is in your hands." I closed the file, looked up, met my father's gaze, and nodded firmly. "I will, in this new life. What was once taken, belittled, and trampled upon is now firmly in my grasp." Another spring day, at the cemetery, I ascend the steps and stop at a tombstone. In the photo on the tombstone, a little girl looks timidly at the camera, her eyes clear and bright. That was in my previous life. On the first day I returned to the Lu family. When my parents took a photo of me, I gently placed the vibrant bouquet of sunflowers in my arms in front of the tomb, bidding farewell to the setting sun. I turned and left. The darkness has dissipated, and the path ahead is clear. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. The year my parents loved each other the most, I was born, but they were too young and loved to play. Unable to let go of their female friends and male confidants, I got used to falling asleep amidst their arguments, only to have my dreams pierced by their screams in the dead of night. Under the dim yellow light, they transformed into monsters I had never seen before, stabbing each other's hearts with venomous words. As usual, I was locked into that small room. The light and shadow outside the door tore at each other, but they couldn't illuminate the fear and helplessness in my heart. I cried until I retched, and the palm of my hand that pounded on the door was bleeding, yet still, no one cared. It wasn't until I heard my sister's whimpering that I mustered my last bit of strength to embrace the warm little bundle. From that day on, I developed claustrophobia, and the only cure was my sister. When I was 7, my parents once again forgot the way while arguing in the car. In the moment of impact, I shielded my sister tightly beneath me, allowing the shards of glass to pierce my spine. When I woke up again, I could no longer stand, becoming a silent scar in this home. I have slit my wrists, swallowed pills, and even steered my wheelchair towards an oncoming truck. But every time I opened my eyes, There were my mother's swollen eyes and my father's hair turned completely white overnight. They finally stopped arguing. Mom learned how to make my favorite fish porridge, spooning it slowly to cool before feeding me. Dad would carry me downstairs every day to bask in the sun, his back bending like a bridge. My little sister would always rest her head on my lap, gently touching my sunken cheeks with her tiny hands. Sister, if it hurts, bite me, but don't die, okay? I thought. I exchanged my broken body for peaceful days, until that afternoon, when I heard my sister's tearful accusation, with an invalid sister, I'll never be wanted by anyone in my life. If only back then. The latter part crumbles into sobs, but that silence, louder than any argument. That evening, I entered that small room again, enduring claustrophobia. I tore the sheets with my teeth and tightly strangled my neck. The suffocation, accompanied by ringing in my ears, surged in, yet I only felt relief. Wan, the door burst open, and my mother swept in like a gust of wind, snatching the sheet from my hands. The force was so great that her nails split open, bleeding instantly. I didn't have time to react before she tightly pulled me into her embrace. Her whole body trembled, and her hands wildly slapped my face. Are you crazy? You dare to leave? As soon as you go, I'll follow right behind with your dad and sister to keep you company. The scalding tears fell onto my neck, warming my despairing heart. Following closely behind, my sister's temple hit the door frame, leaving a bruise, but she didn't care. Seeing the sheets being torn apart, her knees gave way, and she collapsed to her knees. I buried my face in my mother's chest, my voice hoarse. Mom, I didn't want to die. The doctor mentioned exposure therapy. I want to try it. Mother's sobs abruptly stopped, but her arms tightened even more. After a while, Father approached with a hunched back, silently picking me up. Daughter, don't be afraid. Dad is almost done saving 500,000 yuan, and soon you'll be able to stand again. I closed my eyes and didn't speak. Before me flashed my father's hair turned white from running freight, my mother's eyes reddened from working 3 jobs, and my sister's dance shoes she had quietly put away. My mother, as she had done 1,000 times before, laid me down, skillfully undoing the soiled clothes. She wrung out a hot towel and gently wiped between my legs, where I had lost control. Gentle movements, yet each one filled me with unbearable shame and despair. When we were back in the wheelchair, my father's eyes were bloodshot, and my sister forced a smile as she looked at me. She strained to lift the corners of her mouth. Sis, don't worry. Tomorrow, Lu Zhou and I will finalize everything. Once the 200,000 yuan in betrothal money arrives, there will be enough for the surgery. I paused for a moment and nodded. Tomorrow, I'm too tired, so I won't go with you. My sister's smile faltered for a moment, then she lowered her eyes, accepting the lie. All right, then let Mom accompany you. We all understand that I am making a respectable space for her to discuss marriage. It's me who has held her back. She has been in love with Lu Zhou for many years, but for my sake, she had to demand a dowry of 200,000 yuan. Now that we have finally reached this point, I cannot be the stumbling block anymore. A restless night. The next morning, as usual, my mother came to remove my catheter, but I stopped her hand. Mom, today, just don't remove it. My mother slowly straightened up and looked at me. Why, did you forget about the last time the catheter caused nephritis and you passed out from the pain? The doctor said it can't be worn for too long. I listened to my sister's unusually cheerful voice coming from outside the door and whispered, Mom, you should go with my sister today too. I want to be alone. I have the urine bag, so I won't be a bother. Her hand froze midair. She quickly turned her face away, her shoulders slightly heaving, and when she turned back, her eyes were red. Silly child, what are you talking about? You'll always be our precious one. Who would ever disliked you? Mom will agree, but you have to come with me. You go watch a movie first, and Mom will pick you up after I'm done. We arrived at the restaurant half an hour early, just as my parents were about to push me to the cinema. A loud voice rang out, Uncle, Auntie, Ruru, you're here so early too. My parents are still on their way. I came early on purpose to set up. Come in and sit down quickly. I raised my eyes. Lu Zhou stood there, his shirt crisp, his smile simple and warm. He looked at his sister with a smile, then his gaze shifted to me. The smile remained, but there was an almost imperceptible pause. I instinctively turned my wheelchair to avoid him, but he was already walking over with a smile. Is this Miss Su Wan, I'm Lu Zhou, Ruru often mentions you, and today I finally get to meet you. He crouched down, bringing his eyes level with mine, and extended his hand. That just right respect made me stiffen all over, my fingertips trembling uncontrollably. Hello, just as I was about to reach out, I caught sight of my mother and sister's tense expressions. I hurriedly lowered my head and turned the wheelchair. You've mistaken me for someone else. I'm not, Sister Suan, Lu Zhou gently steadied the wheelchair, his movements soft yet unyielding. I've been to your home several times, but I only saw your photo. Today, I finally met you, and I must have a good talk with you. He smiled at his sister and said, Roro, isn't that right? His sister's voice was strained. Sister, why don't you join us? I slowly nodded, allowing him to push me into the private room after securing the wheelchair. I saw my parents chatting with Lu Zhou on either side, their faces wearing smiles I had never seen before. Lu Zhou brought the menu close to me. Sister Su Wan, Ro always says you know a lot about seafood. Take a look and see what you'd like to eat. Today, I'm paying. I looked at the expensive dish names, suppressed the nausea brought on by the enclosed space, and forced a smile. At this moment, Mr. and Mrs. Lu entered the room. They were dressed elegantly and spoke politely. They smiled as they handed a beautifully wrapped gift box to each of my parents and my sister. When their eyes fell upon me, unexpectedly present, a hint of awkwardness flickered across their faces. I lowered my head, wanting to wheel myself out. I just have something to do. Sister Su Wan, yours is here. Lu Zhou pulled my wheelchair closer to him, then took out a velvet box from his coat, a scarf. I hope you like it. My parents opened their mouths. My sister hesitated, but neither said anything. In the end, I stayed. At first, the atmosphere was still harmonious as we discussed the wedding. Lu Zhou smiled and agreed, occasionally and naturally serving me food, as if we had known each other for a long time. It wasn't until the waiter brought the dishes that he accidentally knocked over the urine bag hanging by my wheelchair. After a slight cracking sound, the smell of urine quickly spread through the air. The smiles on Lu Zhou's parents' faces instantly vanished. They exchanged a glance and silently put down their chopsticks. After moving to the new private room, Lu's father cleared his throat. Ruru is a good child. We like her very much, and we believe she and Lu Zhou will be very happy together after they get married. He paused, his gaze slowly sweeping in my direction. But we have a condition. After marriage, Ruru must focus on their own small family. After all, once married, you're a family, and you can't involve your sister in everything. The younger sister's eyes instantly reddened. Uncle, she's my only sister, and she got hurt because of me. I can't just abandon her. How long can you manage? Lu's father raised his hand to stop her, his tone calm yet ruthless. You will have a husband, children, and your own life. You don't have the energy, nor is it possible to take care of someone who is completely incapacitated for a lifetime. I can, then don't marry my son. The atmosphere suddenly froze. I clenched the cold wheelchair armrest, my voice hoarse. I won't. Everyone looked at me. I took a deep breath and firmly repeated, I won't burden my sister for life. Lu Zhou suddenly stood up. Dad, what are you even talking about? Su Wan is also my sister. I won't agree to this condition. Lu's father's voice suddenly rose. Do you know what you're saying? Do you understand what this means? Have you thought about how difficult your life will be in the future? As he spoke, he grabbed Lu Zhou's arm and pulled him outside without any explanation. You're not calm right now. Come home with me. Lu Zhou struggled, his eyes red, as his parents forcibly dragged him away, just before leaving. He tried to give his sister a reassuring smile, but that smile was twisted, uglier than crying. The private room was deathly silent. My sister froze in place, her body trembling slightly, yet she straightened her back resolutely and quickly wiped her eyes. I looked down at my numb legs, catching the faint smell of urine in the air. At this moment, I loathed myself, seeing my parents slumped in their chairs, their faces full of embarrassment. My sister suddenly grabbed her coat and stood up, her movements quick and urgent. Mother quickly grabbed her. Ro, where are you going? She paused abruptly. I'm going to find Lu Zhou and make things clear. If they truly can't accept my sister, then this wedding might as well not happen. I was stunned and quickly turned my wheelchair to grab the corner of her clothes. Don't go, Ro, don't be foolish. It doesn't matter what happens to me, as long as you're happy. She turned around, crouched down to look me in the eye, gently wiping away the tears I didn't realize I had shed. Her voice was unusually soft. Sister, don't be afraid. Lu Zhou loves me so much. He'll listen to me. Go home and wait for me. Don't overthink things. I looked into her eyes, my nose aching with a sharp sting. Don't wrong yourself. I'll wait for you to come back. The stubborn figure didn't turn back, only waving a hand before disappearing down the corridor. I returned home, sitting from afternoon until dusk. The sky darkened inch by inch, and streetlights lit up one by one. My younger sister never returned, and no one answered the phone. Late at night, my mother, getting up to use the bathroom, saw me still curled up at the headboard clutching my phone, and was startled. Wan Wan, why aren't you asleep yet? Is it hurting again around the catheter? I shook my head, my voice hoarse. Mom, I can't get through to Ruru's phone. I don't know how she is. My mother's face also changed, and she grabbed her own phone to dial. The phone rang for a long time before it was answered. As she listened, her face gradually turned pale. Which hospital? We're on our way right now. Putting down her phone, she looked at me, her lips trembling. Ruru and Lu Zhou were in a car accident. When we arrived at the hospital, chaos reigned outside the operating room. Her younger sister slumped against the wall, her body covered in large, dried, dark bloodstains, her eyes vacant. Yesterday, Mrs. Lu had been elegant and poised, but now her eyes were bloodshot. As she grabbed her sister's hair and screamed, "It's all your fault. You knew Lu Zhou was driving and still argued with him. Now his condition is unknown, and you're just a little scratched. You're a curse." Mother stumbled over to embrace her younger sister, apologizing repeatedly. "I'm sorry, mother-in-law. The child didn't mean it. We will take responsibility. We will take good care of Lu Zhou." Lu's father interrupted directly, pointing angrily at me. "Get out, take your crippled daughter and troublemaker daughter far away. Don't ever show up in front of us again. If anything happens to my son, I won't let this go." We helped our trembling sister tend to her wounds, then stood silently in the shadows by the corner of the operating room for a long time, until the doctor came out. "The patient is out of danger, but the left leg needs surgery as soon as possible to save it. With an estimated cost of 500,000 yuan, Mr. and Mrs. Lu immediately surrounded the doctor, urgently asking questions. His sister instinctively took half a step forward, then abruptly stopped, turned around, and ran out of the hospital without a word. The car ride home was deathly silent. Her younger sister sat in the passenger seat, her head turned towards the window, gazing at the night scenery receding outside, like a lifeless sculpture. Late at night, muffled sobs came from next door. "Dad, Mom, it's my fault for Lu Zhou. With our family like this, I shouldn't have forced him to accept." Her crying grew louder, almost gasping for breath. "Dad, I beg you, take out the money and use it to treat Lu Zhou's leg first, please." The father's voice was tired and desperate. "That money is for your sister's rehabilitation. If we give it to Lu Zhou, what about your sister?" The sound of the sister's crying suddenly stopped. A faint murmur drifted afterward. "If I had known it would come to this, I shouldn't have stopped her from dying back then." Click! A loud slap echoed, followed by the mother's cry and the father's heavy sigh. I lay in the pitch-black room, my tear-filled eyes wide, staring at the ceiling. I could only feel the last bit of warmth slipping away. The next morning, my mother entered the room as usual, helping me clean up after my incontinence. I saw the bloodshot eyes, the new white hairs at her temples, and the scratches on the back of her hand that I didn't know when she got. She noticed my gaze, her hands still moving, and she smiled as she asked, "What's wrong, dear? Why are you staring at me so much today?" I didn't speak, just greedily looked at her, wanting to etch this face, tired yet forcing a smile, deep into my heart. She helped me change into clean clothes and patted my shoulder. "Stay home and take good care of your sister today. Mom and Dad will be back after visiting the hospital. You're a big girl now. You need to help Mom and Dad take care of your sister. Once we've saved enough money to fix your leg, you'll be able to stand up." I forced a smile and tried to sound as cheerful as possible. "Mom, I want to eat the sweet and sour fish you make. Please come back early." I knew they wouldn't be back so soon. Last night, I heard every word of their whispered conversation between her and my father. Father said he wanted to sell a kidney for 200,000. I quietly finished the fish porridge she brought. Each mouthful was chewed slowly, as if savoring the last bit of warmth. Then I returned to the room and took out the ceramic piggy bank. From the depths of the drawer, after my last failed suicide attempt, my sister cried as she handed it to me, saying we would save together, and one day we would have enough for the surgery. I poured all the coins and a few crumpled bills onto the table, counting them one by one. I neatly stacked them in the most conspicuous spot on the dining table in the living room. This was the last bit I could save for them. Then, I took out the thick wool socks my mother had knitted late into the night, and put on the little leather shoes my sister had bought me with her first paycheck. These, I had once fantasized about wearing after standing up. Now there's no chance, and I don't want to leave any regrets. I wheeled myself to the bathroom, trying my best to tidy up, so my parents wouldn't have to worry more. But no matter how I tidied up, the mirror only reflected a face, sunken-eyed, over 20 but already filled with the weariness of old age. Suddenly, I felt an intense desire to see my sister one more time. Gently, I pushed open the slightly ajar door to my sister's room. She was squeezed into a small bed, her brow furrowed. I gazed greedily at her sleeping profile. At this moment, she woke up startled. She raised her sallow, haggard face, her brows tightly furrowed. "What is it? Can't you let me sleep in peace? I'm already so annoyed." The words, "Sister, I love you," got stuck in her throat and just wouldn't come out. I was stunned for a long time before I finally said in a low voice, "I'm sorry." Then I gently closed the door. I held the phone and the velvet gift box that Lu Zhou had given me, and entered the small room again. This time, I locked the door from the inside. I don't want to be saved anymore, nor do I want to bother anyone else. I opened the gift box, only to find it contained a fan-shaped silk scarf, my sister's favorite. Clearly, it was bought by Lu Zhou for my sister. I hesitated. I've dirted it. Would my sister be upset? The fear of confinement has once again engulfed me. Cold sweat drenches my back, my heart races, and I no longer have the strength to tear the sheets. I tremble as I take out my phone and send my father the final text message. "Dad, don't sell your kidney. I don't need it anymore. Also, apologize to Roro for me." I stained her shawl, afraid that I might instinctively struggle while suffocating. I used my upper body to wedge the wheelchair tightly under the table. Then, summoning my last bit of strength, I wrapped the light pink shawl around my neck. My parents arrived home an hour later. Opening the door, seeing the empty living room and the neatly stacked change on the table, his expression changed instantly. They found their sister, their voices trembling. "Where's Wan Wan?" She sent me a strange text message. The sister took the phone, read it, and her face turned pale in an instant. His legs went weak, nearly collapsing to his knees. The three stumbled toward the tightly shut small door, trembling uncontrollably. Then, they slammed into the old wooden door like madmen. With a creak, the door opened. The moment the shawl tightened, the world suddenly felt very light. The sensation of suffocation ebbed like receding tides, and the ringing in my ears gradually faded. I found myself floating in the air, looking down at the body curled up in the wheelchair. His face was a purplish blue, and a pale pink shawl was wrapped around his neck. Dad was the first to burst into the room. Seeing my state, he froze in place, like a sculpture suddenly turned to stone. 2 seconds later, a guttural, inhuman roar escaped his throat, and he lunged forward, frantically trying to untie the shawl around my neck. His fingers trembled so violently that it took 3 attempts to undo it. "Wan Wan, Wan Wan." He lifted me out of the wheelchair and laid me flat on the ground, starting CPR. His movements were precise. I knew he had secretly learned it after I had overdosed and had my stomach pumped. "Wife, call an ambulance. Hurry." Mom stood at the door, her hand on the doorframe, slipping down. Her mouth was open, but no sound came out. Her younger sister squeezed in from behind her, saw me on the ground, and her pupils suddenly contracted. "Sis." She knelt down and reached out to check my breath. Her hand froze in midair, trembling violently. "Sister." This time, it was a scream. The ambulance arrived very quickly. When I was lifted onto the stretcher, my father held my hand the entire time. His hand was so hot that it felt like it was burning my soul. "Hang in there, my daughter. Dad is here. Dad is with you." The lights in the hospital corridor were blindingly white. I was pushed into the emergency room, and as the door closed, my sister finally let out a cry. The cry seemed to tear from the deepest part of her chest. Hoarse and broken, Mother supported her, and both of them slumped onto the bench. "It's my fault." Her sister clutched the fabric over her chest, her knuckles turning white. I shouldn't have said that to her. I shouldn't have said that to her this morning. Dad stood outside the emergency room, his back ramrod straight, but from above, I could see the slight tremor running through his entire body like a leaf on the verge of falling in the cold wind. 3 hours later, the doctor came out, taking off the mask. His voice was very soft. We did our best. The world fell silent for a moment. Then my mother slid off the chair and knelt to the ground. She didn't cry out loud, just opened her mouth wide, taking deep breaths. Like a fish out of water, her younger sister stared blankly at the doctor, blinking. What do you mean? Did our best. Her father walked over, slowly, very slowly, and crouched down, embracing her mother. He buried his face into her mother's shoulder, and his shoulders began to heave violently. There is no sound, but I know he is crying. My soul drifts through the hospital corridors, watching them being led by the nurse to a quiet ward. I lay on the hospital bed, covered with a white sheet. Mother's hands trembled as she slowly lifted the white cloth. The moment she saw my face, she suddenly reached out and tightly covered her mouth, yet, suppressed sobs still escaped through her fingers. My younger sister stood by the bed, staring at me. After a long while, she suddenly reached out and touched my cheek. Sis, she said, you're cold. She turned and walked out, returning a few minutes later with a pair of thick woolen socks in her hands. It's the pair I wore this morning. She lifted the corner of the white cloth and carefully helped me put on my socks. Her movements were as gentle as if she were handling fragile glass. This way, you won't be cold, she whispered. Sister, this way, you won't be cold. My father had been standing by the window, his back to us. Outside the window was the thick darkness of night, his shadow stretched long by the light, cast on the wall, slightly swaying. At 3 in the morning, the nurse came in to remind us that it was time to make decisions about what comes next. She handed my mother a phone as she said, This is from the deceased. Open it and take a look. Mother picked it up, her fingers sliding across the screen, and tears welled up again. This child, the phone's home screen is a photo of our whole family. It was taken on last year's birthday. I sat in my wheelchair, my sister making a funny face over my shoulder, while my parents stood behind us, both smiling. That was one I secretly saved from my mom's WeChat moments. Then she saw the memo. I wrote it last night. The title has only 2 characters. Last will, Dad, Mom, Ruru. When you see this, I should already be gone. Don't cry, this is my own choice. First, let's talk about money. I've checked, and organ donation can get some compensation. My corneas, kidneys, liver, whatever can be used, sell them all. That should be around 200,000 to 300,000. Adding the savings at home, it should be enough for Lu Zhou's surgery. This way, Ruru won't feel guilty or be put in a difficult position. Keep the remaining money. Mom, stop working 3 jobs. Your back has been hurting for years. Dad, don't drive at night anymore. I've been really scared since the last time you almost had an accident. Take the money, start a small business, or just save it for retirement. Live well and stop arguing, especially at night. When you argue, I can't sleep. I hear everything very clearly. Sorry, Ruru. In the end, I still dragged you down. That shawl, I got it dirty. When you get married, let Lu Zhou buy you a new one. You must be happy. This is my final wish. Don't think of me. Just pretend I never existed. Disobedient daughter, Su Wan. When my mother read to the end, her phone slipped from her hand and fell to the ground. The screen shattered, with cracks spreading like a spiderweb. She didn't pick it up, just stared at me blankly. This child was still thinking of us until the very end. Her sister picked up the phone and read the words. She suddenly looked up at her father. Dad, no, you can't sell my sister's organs. She suffered her whole life, and you can't even let her have a. Listen to her. Dad suddenly spoke up. His voice was hoarse, like sandpaper scraping. He turned around, his face streaked with tears, his eyes so swollen they could barely open. Listen to Wan Wan. Dad, this was her final wish. Dad walked to the bedside, gently tucking the stray hairs from my forehead. We owe her too much, at least this one thing. We should listen to her. Mom rushed over, grabbing Dad's arm. But that's our daughter, our Wan Wan. That's why we must listen to her even more. Dad held Mom's hand tightly. This is the way out she bought for us with her own life. In the end, they signed the papers. When my organs were taken, my soul hovered nearby. It didn't hurt, just felt empty, as if something was being slowly taken away, but seeing those organs being carefully preserved, I felt that perhaps they could continue to live within someone else's body. The compensation was quickly disbursed, 280,000, combined with the family's original savings. It just added up to 500,000. Dad took the bank card and went to the hospital where Lu Zhou was. Lu Zhou was already awake, his left leg encased in a thick plaster cast, his face pale. Lu Zhou's parents were by the bedside, and their expressions immediately turned wary when they saw my father enter. "What are you doing here?" Lu Zhou's father stood up, blocking the bed. My father didn't speak, merely placing the bank card on the bedside table. 500,000, he said, to treat Lu Zhou's leg. Lu's mother was stunned. "Where did you get so much money?" "My daughter gave it." His father's voice was very calm to the point of being terrifying. "She exchanged her life for it." The ward was deathly silent. Lu Zhou struggled to sit up. "Uncle, Sister Su Wan, she's gone." Her father interrupted him. "She passed away yesterday afternoon. Organ donation, exchanged for this money." Mrs. Lu covered her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. "Mr. Lu stared at the card, his face alternating between green and white. "We can't take this money." Lu Zhou shook his head, his voice trembling. "Uncle, we can't take this money." "Take it," his father said, looking at him. "This is what my daughter traded her life for. If you don't take it, her death would have been in vain." He turned and walked out, stopping at the door without looking back. "Please take care of Ruru from now on. Don't let her suffer." The door closed. I floated in the hospital room, watching Lu Zhou grab the card and slam it against the wall. Then he covered his face, and his shoulders began to shake violently. Why did you have to do this?" Mother Lu picked up the card, holding it tightly in her hand, and remained silent for a long time. Father Lu let out a long sigh, sat back down in his chair, and looked as if he had aged 10 years. The surgery was a success. Lu Zhou's leg was saved. 3 months later, he was able to walk with the aid of crutches. The doctor said that with persistent rehabilitation training, it should not be noticeable when he walks in the future. During this time, his sister went to the hospital every day, but she never entered the ward. She just sat on the bench in the corridor, waiting for Mrs. Lu to come out so she could ask about the situation. Lu Zhou had tried to see her many times, but she always avoided him. It wasn't until the day Lu Zhou could walk on his own that he came to my house, leaning on a crutch. He knocked on the door, and my sister opened it. They stood at the doorway, staring at each other for a long time. No one spoke. "Is your leg better?" my sister asked first, her voice soft. Lu Zhou nodded. "Thank you for the money. That was my sister's money." "I'm sorry." Her sister pulled at the corner of her mouth, and the expression hardly qualified as a smile. "What do you have to be sorry for? I'm the one who should apologize. I almost got you killed, and my sister gave her life to compensate for your leg. We're even now." Roro, don't say that." "Then what should I say?" her sister interrupted him, her eyes turning red. "Lu Zhou, let's just call it quits." "What? Let's forget about the wedding." She sniffed and tried to steady her voice. "My sister is dead because of me. Your family never wanted to marry me in the first place, and now it's even more impossible. Don't force it." Lu Zhou grabbed her hand. "I don't care, Ruru. I don't care about what happened to your sister, and I don't care what my parents think. I want to marry you, but I care." Her sister pulled her hand back and took a step backward. "Lu Zhou, I have nightmares every night. I dream of my sister sitting in a wheelchair, watching me, with that pink scarf wrapped around her neck. I dream of you lying in a pool of blood, with a broken leg. I dream of my father signing the organ donation consent form, his hand trembling so much he can't hold the pen." She raised her hand to wipe her face, but the tears still fell. "I can't take it anymore. Every time I see you, I think of these things. We won't be happy together." The door closed. Lu Zhou stood at the door for a long time, long enough for the corridor's sound-activated lights to go out and then come back on, over and over again. Finally, he whispered softly to the door, Ro, I'll wait for you. I'll still be here when you can let go." He didn't wait for her. 3 months later, her sister found out she was pregnant. She sat in the bathroom, staring at the 2 lines on the pregnancy test, not moving for a long time. When she came out, her mother was cooking porridge in the kitchen. She had been making fish porridge lately, and after it was done, she would serve a bowl in front of my former seat. waiting for it to cool before pouring it away. Mom, my sister walked over. I'm pregnant. The spoon fell into the pot, splashing hot porridge. Mom didn't bother to clean it up. Turning around to stare at my sister, who's, Lu Zhou's, his sister was calm, the last time, before his car accident. Mother covered her face and slowly crouched down. She didn't cry, only her shoulders trembled. What a sin, truly a sin. I want to have the baby, her sister said. Are you crazy, pregnant out of wedlock? What will people say about you? Then we'll get married. Her sister's voice was soft but firm. Mom, I've thought it through. My sister gave her life to earn the money that healed Lu Zhou's leg. If I don't marry him now, my sister will have died for nothing. Her mother looked up at her. Her eyes read, Ro, don't be foolish. I'm not being foolish. Her sister crouched down, holding their mother's hand. Mom, I love Lu Zhou. He loves me too. It's just about my sister's situation. We both need time to process it. Now that the child is here, maybe it's fate. I want to give my sister an explanation, and I want to give this child a home. The next day, her sister went to find Lu Zhou. After listening, Lu Zhou was stunned for a long time, then hugged her tightly. Let's get married, he said. We'll get our marriage certificate tomorrow. The wedding was very simple. In the 7th month after my death, her sister wore a white wedding dress, her belly slightly rounded. She didn't smile, but her eyes were calm. When exchanging rings, she whispered to Lu Zhou, I'll try to let go, but it will take time. A lifetime is fine. Lu Zhou kissed her hand. I'll wait. At the wedding banquet, my parents sat at the main table, their faces frozen in stiff smiles. Many people came to toast, mixing, please accept our condolences, with, congratulations. With each such toast, my mother's smile faded a little more. After the feast ended, my parents returned to their empty home. My room remains the same, the wheelchair in the corner, the sheets a clean light blue. Mom walks in, sits on the bed, touches the quilt, and remains silent for a long time. Dad stands at the door. Let's clean up. Wait a little longer. Mom says softly, let me wait a little longer. That night, they argued again. It wasn't really an argument, more like mutual torment. It's all your fault, Mom cried out. If it weren't for you insisting on driving and arguing with me back then, Wan wouldn't be paralyzed. My fault. Dad's voice rose as well. If it weren't for your constant suspicion and paranoia, would I have been distracted? Am I being paranoid? Your female colleagues keep texting you. Do you think I don't know? They're just co-workers. Can you stop being so unreasonable? I'm unreasonable, Guoqiang Su. I've been married to you for 20 years. How much have I endured? Now that our daughter is gone, you're blaming me. The voices echoed through the living room in the dead of night. I floated in the air, watching them like two trapped beasts, tearing each other apart with the most venomous words. Suddenly, my mother stopped. She looked in the direction of my room, her face gradually turning pale. Wan, she whispered. She can hear. Dad was also stunned. She could hear, Mom repeated, tears welling up. She wrote it in her suicide note, especially at night. When you fight, I can't sleep. I hear everything clearly. Deathly silence. Dad slowly slid down to the floor, his hands covering his head. What have we done? From that day on, they stopped arguing, but they also stopped talking. The home became a tomb, eerily quiet. Each went about their own business, not looking up during meals, and retreating to their own rooms afterward. May she occasionally comes back, bringing Lu Zhou with her. They try to mediate, but it doesn't work. Mom and Dad smile and greet them, but their smiles are hollow, their eyes lifeless. After Lu Zhou recovered from his leg injury, he found a new job and earns a good income. My younger sister gave birth to a boy, named Lu Nian. His nickname is Wan. I know it's for me. On the day the child turned 1 month old, both our parents came. Mother held her little grandson, looking at the child's soft face, and suddenly tears fell. So much like your sister when she was little. It was the first time, after my death, that they cried together. Things seemed to be getting better slowly. My younger sister and her family often come back, bringing the laughter of children into the house. My parents' faces also begin to show genuine smiles, but I know, it's just an illusion. Dad starts suffering from insomnia, staying awake all night long. Mom grew thinner and thinner, often staring at my photo in a daze. It wasn't until the 2nd anniversary of my death, that day, They went to the cemetery. My tombstone was very simple, only bearing my name and the dates of birth and death. Below is engraved a small line of text, resting here, free from all pain. Mother touched the words and softly said, Juan Juan, Mom has come to see you. Father crouched beside, carefully removing the weeds from the grave. His movements were slow and meticulous. After the memorial, they didn't go straight home but went to the riverside. That was a place they often took me to when I was a child. Would sit in my wheelchair, watching them hold my sister's hand and walk along the beach. The evening breeze by the river was very cool. They stood side by the railing, gazing at the turbid river. Guoqiang, Mom suddenly spoke. I can't hold on anymore. Dad didn't say anything. Every morning when I wake up, all I can think about is Juan Juan. I think about her final appearance. The messages on her phone. Mom's voice was calm, unnervingly so. I keep dreaming she's saying, Mom, I'm cold. Me too. Dad finally spoke. I dream of her in that small room, wrapping the shawl around her neck. I try to rush in, but the door won't open. I keep slamming into it, my hands bloody, but the door just won't open. Mother turned to look at him. We owe her a life. Next lifetime. We'll repay her, okay. As they climbed over the railing, their movements were calm, as if they were merely stepping over a low threshold. I floated in the air, wanting to shout but unable to make a sound, wanting to pull them back, but my hands passed through their bodies. Just as they were about to leap off, I suddenly felt a surge of strength from my chest. It was a feeling I had never experienced before, warmth and certainty. Dad, Mom, I called out. They turned around abruptly, seeing me transparent, floating in the air. Mother's eyes widened, her lips trembling. Juan Juan, don't jump. I floated over, standing between them and the river. Go back. Juan Juan, Mom is so tired. Mother cried. Mom misses you. I miss you too. I tried to keep my voice steady, but you can't do this. Your younger daughter needs you. Xiaonianwen needs you. Father looked at me, tears streaming down the wrinkles on his face. Daughter, Dad is sorry to you. No one owes an apology to anyone. I said, Dad, Mom, I wrote the will not to see you like this. I donated my organs, exchanged them for money, to let you live well. I wanted you to use that money, to travel, to eat good food, to make up for all the beauty you missed over the years. I didn't ask you to come looking for me. The river wind blew, and my soul stirred faintly, but I stood firmly in front of them. Go back, I repeated, raise Nianwan well, teach him how to love, how to cherish, and how not to repeat our mistakes. Tell him my story. Tell him that the lesson my aunt learned at the cost of her life is this. Among family, never say harsh words, and never leave regrets. My mother reached out to touch me, her hand passing through the air. She cried even harder. Mom, I said softly, I never blamed you. I just wanted you to be happy. Now I have a new life. I pointed to the sky. It's very bright and warm there. No wheelchair, no pain. So, don't make me worry, okay? They exchanged a glance, then, slowly, climbed back over the railing. As soon as their feet touched solid ground, my mother's legs gave way, and my father caught her. They held each other, crying like two children. Live well. Those were my last words. Then I felt a force pulling me upward, toward the light. I took one last look at their embracing figures, turned, and melted into the warm light. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital ward. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, illuminating the white sheets. The nurse walked in, saw me, and smiled. Awake. How do you feel? I tried moving my hands and then my feet. All can move. The surgery was successful, the nurse said. You have received a healthy heart. The donor was a very brave young man. I raised my hand to touch my chest. There beats an unfamiliar heart, strong and warm. What is her name? I asked. The nurse shook her head. According to regulations, I cannot disclose that, but her family left a message for you. What did he say? Live well. Outside the window, the sunlight was just right. The distant sound of children's laughter, clear and bright. I know, it's Nianwan who is laughing. Mom and Dad must have taken good care of him, and I, finally, can stand up, with a brand new heart, step into a rebirth free from constraints. In the distance, two elderly people held a little boy's hand as they strolled in the park. The boy hopped and skipped, pointing to the sky. Grandpa, look, birds. The old man bent down to lift him up, his face wrinkling with laughter. Those are pigeons. Juan Juan, I want to fly too. All right, fly, the wind passes through the treetops, carrying away the sighs of the past, sunlight pours down, illuminating the path ahead for everyone. My journey is still long, but this time, I walk it myself. After hearing the 3 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.